Well, hello and welcome everybody to Flower Therapy. My name is Jessica, and it is a pleasure to have everybody join us back here this evening for another fun evening of Flower Therapy. This is our second session. I hope you had a chance to visit us last month, or if you didn't, you had a chance to visit and listen in. Last month, we had a chance to kind of talk a little bit about the weather and how it has affected a lot of us that grow in different areas and how that has affected us. We had a couple of growers. I'm sorry, this is also recorded live, so you may get to hear my sister who will be helping MC in the background and her lovely puppies in the background. Lucy is being a bit of a 2-year-old puppy terror. So if you hear some unusual behaviors, probably little puppy Lucy in the background. My sister's going to be helping with any of the comments or questions that get fielded tonight. We certainly want this to be interactive, so we hope that you guys jump in and you can help collaborate with the communication. We'd like this to feel two-way, so I can talk. I can talk all evening long if you guys want to hear me talk, but this will be way more fun if we all pitch in together and we kind of hear how this goes from a couple of different points of view. As I was saying last month, we were talking a little bit about the weather, and we had a couple of different growers who jumped on and talked about how it had really affected them. And we had a grower from Florida. And if you remember, we've had some pretty extreme weather patterns that had hit Florida in January. So it was pretty devastating to hear how the weather had affected different parts of the US and how devastation from weather can affect us. This month, we're going to focus a little bit about the seasonal doubt that can creep in. And while that may not sound like a fun or glamorous topic, I think it's an important one that sometimes gets glossed over a little bit when we're talking about gardening or flower farming or life in general. Doubt creeps in on all of us, and how we respond to that, how we deal with that, and how we battle that in our daily lives has ripple effects. And it's always nice to hear how others are battling those challenges and maybe picking up some different tips and techniques along the way, or just understanding and having a little empathy for where others are finding those hurdles along their path. For me, I know that this time of year comes with a lot of seasonal doubt. I suffer from seasonal affective disorder. So I have SAD to the nth degree. And this season has been one of the most challenging for me with the sustained cold temperatures. It's been really hard to kind of get out of that rhythm and to find my hope again, just because the temperatures have been so sustained cold. And I think that sustained cold has played a part in my seasonal doubt. And so for me, it has been really imperative that I have been really determined to focus on all the things that help me to kind of rally and focus around getting out of kind of the mental trap that I can find myself in when doubt creeps in. And I think this time of year, it's easy to kind of get lost in the waves of doubt. You look around, everything is covered in barren temperatures, maybe a blanket of snow. There's not a lot of fresh life. It's easy to be sitting in the planning stage and wondering if the plans are going to come to fruition. You're seeing a lot of spending, but not a lot of return. It's really challenging to have all of the upward momentum, but not feel a lot of the gains happening this time of year. And so there's a lot of opportunities for doubt to kind of creep in. And I think it's important for us to acknowledge that this is the perfect storm for us to really have to be focused on not letting those challenges kind of upset our apple carts. And for me, some of the things that I do that really kind of help stimulate and help me work around it are some of my gardening therapies, really being out there and minding my seeds, tending to my plants, and trying to stay really positively motivated. There's really nothing quite like hearing birds chirp on a winter day. That really does it for me because it reminds me that there's still fresh life about to be around the corner. Even when it snows, I live on a gravel road. So even when it snows, I look for the little pockets on the gravel road that the snow wasn't able to stick. And I feel like, there's light. Like there's a spot of warmth underneath that sheet of ice. Underneath that blanket of snow, there's a spot of warmth because the snow couldn't stick. So for me, I'm constantly looking for those little areas of warmth, of pockets of sun, of something to keep me going. So I ask you, like, what are those areas of where doubt kind of creeps in for you? What areas do you challenge or find yourself challenged with, where you wonder if it's hopeless, if there are areas that you need to kind of redirect? What are those areas that you find sticking points for yourself? And we're still battling the the very naughty dog in the back corner. I wish you could see all the swatting that's happening. It's not playful banter anymore. It's getting a little aggressive. She's standing up over here on my side corner, and now she's jumping on the table. I'm hoping you're not going to see her, but you very well may. So during the season of doubt, there's a lot of things that I do that I try to do to help myself. We talk about how planning it can be a double-edged sword. So there's a lot of planning that goes in, and it can leave room for what ifs. But at the same time, I also try to use that planning to help me circumvent my what ifs. So with good planning, you can also use that as a way to kind of guide yourself around worrying about catastrophizing and trying to plan for the worst case scenarios. You can't plan for the end of the world, but you can certainly help give yourself some peace of mind by laying out thoughtful plans of attacks for the spring and giving yourself small areas of where you can make thoughtful steps forward. So just giving yourself small bites that you can do daily, whether that's organizing a seed stash. And I will be real honest, there is some deep therapy that can happen just by having seeds in your hand. You don't even have to go to the extremes of planting seeds, but just having seeds in hand and counting out your seed stash does a lot of mental wellness for me. Understanding the how many seeds I have. We do a lot of germination testing on the farm in the off season with seed stash. And so that helps me with my seasonal affective disorder, taking our paper towels, doing moist tests where we're just checking to see what our germination ratio is, helps me to see some fresh life in a very small environment, so it doesn't feel like a big project that I have to sit and overmanage or something that I have to trudge out in the snow and take care of, but something really small and simple that I can bite size and take care of goes a long way for my mental health, as far as just being able to, like, you know what, like, there is spring around the corner, there is life coming. So being able to, like, do small things like that. I was just talking with our farm team this week, and we're about ready to go and cut pussy willow. That's one of my favorite things to cut right now, because if you have seasonal doubt, forcing branches is a great way to remind yourself that spring is truly coming. When you worry a little bit about, like, oh my gosh, am I going to have flowers? Are things going to be able to come on time? You always have the availability of being able to cut some of those spring, especially fruiting branches, and force them a good 6 weeks early. So it feels nice to be able to force some flowering branches early. It does wonders for yourself. It can help profitability. It gives you something proactive that you can physically be doing. For us, being able to have a crop that we're working over this time of year just really helps us on the farm being able to be active again, working over a product, and having something that we can see signs of life. So working with our pussy willow helps me a lot. Mary, I love it. You're telling me, tell me about it. I've done nothing today. Yeah, so it's really hard. Like when you get to this time of year and you feel like the winter doldrums and you're like, I'm just getting bed rot. Like, what do I do? I've read the gardening journals front to back. I'm hopeless. There's nothing left to do. And I don't know that spring is coming because the extended forecast says nothing but like freezing temperatures. I get it, but we have to believe that there is hope, there is spring coming, and that there's always that little kernel of life. It's in everything. We just have to have the patience. And I think that that is the lesson that is sometimes the hardest for us gardeners to remember is the virtue of patience and the test of waiting for that spring of fresh life to come. And we have to have the hope. It's coming around the corner. So the thoughts of doubt that creep in the early spring are so hard, and when we're battling our own good thoughts, our own good wishes of trying to get those seed trays going, a lot of times this time of year when I'm starting seed trays and trying to get 1,000 things going, I always end up killing a few things. And then I start questioning whether I'm really as good of a gardener as I think that I am, because here I just killed off some of the easiest snapdragons that I could have grown. And I think I should know how to grow snapdragons. My gosh, I've been growing them for how long? But you have to also give yourself some grace and some space at this time of year. And sometimes that's easier said than done. But I think that that's also part of this learning how to live with the grace of the season is that we're taking on a whole lot in some of the hardest times of the year, and that Mother Nature knows best. And so sometimes not every seedling is going to make it, and that's okay. But it's the balance of the magic in each seed that has purpose. And there is a lot of beauty in starting life at this point in time of the year. And there can be a lot of hope in that doubt as well. There can be a whole lot of beauty in that doubt as well. And so for me, I continue to try to find purpose in the daily tasks that we kind of try to replicate on the farm. We try to look for small things. Like I said, we have laundry lists of projects to do, but I try to break it down into small bite-sized chunks of projects to get done on the farm instead of trying to do large swaths of projects. We just had our Lysianthus show up on the farm, and that was always a fun project for us. We get really excited because very few green plants show up on the farm this time of year. And so, oh, Mary, you had another one. So do you guys harvest most of your own seeds from your crops? So we don't. We do seed save a few things on our farm, like our Chinese forget-me-nots, and some of our celosia seeds we save. There's a few things that we do save our own seeds of, but for most of them, we buy our own. For the few things that we save, we also clean those seeds ourselves and store them on our own farm, and then label them, document them, and then resow each season. But for the most part, we're buying all of our own seed in each season. And we buy most of our seed from Hera Seed and from Johnny Seed, which are two seed companies that work with farmers and with gardeners alike. So they are open for everyone to buy seed from. But as I was saying, our Lysianthus, which are a beautiful flower that we grow on the farm, and they bloom in July for us, and then again in the fall. They get planted in February, and so they just showed up Valentine's week, of course, an entire pallet of them. We had 7,600 little babies show up on a big pallet in one of the coldest weeks of the month. And of course, it couldn't be a warm day when they arrived, but we were all giddy with delight because it was just the biggest palette of the brightest green you have ever seen. And it was just an overwhelming amount of spring on a box truck. So it made us all really, really happy. And we got to spend a little bit of time just pawing over some fresh green baby plants. Unloading the truck made us all feel literally better. We all left that day and felt a world better. And it was literally just the connection with the plants and a little bit of hard work, a little bit of sweat equity. But it's amazing to me how much just in engaging with the plants did for our physical well-being and for our mental well-being, and then after that, we had the fret of, oh my gosh, can we keep them alive? It's so cold. We've got to get these in the ground. And so with the benefit of, oh, spring's right around the corner and here are these great plants, come another layer of doubt. Oh, can we keep these alive? Can we keep these going? And so it's almost like you trade one problem for the next. And I guess it's kind of how you choose to look at it. I choose to look at it from a positive angle. So instead of thinking, well, oh my gosh, can we keep these alive? I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we have so many to plant. Let's find homes for all these amazing babies. And so we started just problem shooting where we could tuck all these plants safely to get them tucked into new homes, and finding out where the safest place and strategizing where we could get them all, residing into their new little dwellings and where on the farm they were all going to reside. And so for us, it ended up being more like a team building and fun exercise and deciding where we were going to map everything out. And we've been spending the past few days then tucking things into the ground. And it has felt in the middle of winter at one of the worst times. We're still cold. We're still miserable on all other accounts, but we have pockets of joy when it comes to the plants, and we're having so much fun planting them. It's amazing what a pickup that Plant Connections can do. I am so with you, Mary. It sure is. They are just they're giving us such life and purpose right now, these plants. And it really does. It changes how we feel each day, just giving us a little bit more of a connection to, my sister's trying to entertain the dog, and that one got a little bit wild. Sorry about the commotion in the background. And so, yeah, we've been spending our time now like problem shooting, like, okay, so now they're tucked in and we've got to keep ground temperature warm enough. And so the doubt of, well, is the ground temperature going to drop low enough? There's always a different doubt that we trade it out for, but we look for, what the encouragement is. There's always an answer to the doubt. And I think that that's kind of how I respond to it, is what is the answer to the doubt? Because that's always going to be there. There's always going to be someone that can give you a reason to doubt. There's always going to be the what if. And so if you can give yourself a way to answer that, then you feel a little bit more empowered. And if you can also answer the doubt with company, even better. That has been probably my favorite solution to all of it. Doubt feels really scary when it's all alone. When you have company, everything feels manageable. So even if you're doubting yourself on something very small, if you share that doubt with someone else, it immediately feels like it's something you can overcome. If you're doubting your seed sowing schedule and you share it with a gardening buddy, you can probably think through most of your hurdles and challenges and come up with solutions. If you are doubting your questions about whether the Lisianthus can make it through the night, you can probably find your solutions with your mentor in just one or two phone calls. Most all of your doubts can be answered by company. And so for me, I have always just tried to answer most of my doubt through finding company, which is a big reason that I think flower therapy came to be, is because I think with communal connection that a lot of the scariness goes away. A lot of the questioning of whether we're enough, of whether we can get through this, of whether it's worthwhile, whether that we have the answers to achieve what we're looking to achieve. I think that togetherness is the answer to most of what we're looking for. And so for me, a lot of the times when I don't have an answer, my number one answer is to phone a friend. And I think that has been one of my biggest takeaways from it. So when I'm out wanting to look at the willow and the pussy willow and saying, "Oh my gosh, like this stuff probably should be cut next week," I'm going to phone a friend to help me get it down. And while we're cutting that down, I'm probably going to answer a few other questions that I had on my plate and figure out a few things about what's been going on behind the scenes on the farm as well. So, what are some things that you guys are having some doubt about right now where you are? Mary, you mentioned in a past post about worrying about the chrysanthemums because of the snow cover. Are they out in the field in the ground? My luck with standard mums has been very touch and go. Very few come back. So the chrysanthemums, we actually just had a big conversation about this on the farm in our Q2 team meeting today. Yeah, I cannot believe we're about to finish. I have 1 month left of Q1, so we just had our Q2 team meeting. We talked about the chrysanthemums. We talked about our potted mums that were out in the field, and we talked about whether we were worried about potted mums coming back that were in pot. And actually, there are a few that I am a little worried about, and we're kind of evaluating them variety by variety. Now, the ones that I'm most concerned about don't look to be any of my heirloom chrysanthemums that we have been working on introducing into the perennial uh, cut market that we've been offering for cuts. The ones that I have been worried about are actually the hybrids that we were offering like 2 and 3 years ago. I have them in ground. They have been coming back for about 3 and 4 years, and I hadn't had any issue with them. And maybe I got a little too smug, but I'm not sure they're coming back this year. And maybe this is my seasonal doubt. This could definitely be my seasonal doubt creeping in. But I covered them. Wait, I interrupted you. What?
I was just going to say, some plants do that. They thrive for a few years and then there they go.
I know, but these had just been reset. Like I had just reset these, so these should have been okay.
They should have been good.
They should have been good, and I covered them with leaves. I really felt like these were going to be okay. And so I don't know. I'm a little worried because I usually see growth about this time of year and I don't see anything right now. But again, it could be my seasonal doubt. And here's the other thing. So we start rationalizing. That's a part of seasonal doubt. Like we start like, well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, like, or maybe the world fell off its axis. I don't know. The winter has been abnormally cold. So maybe they froze out this year. Maybe this was the year where it plunged too long for too sustained of amount of time and they froze out and I lost them. Maybe it just hasn't warmed up quite enough yet and they just haven't come back. So to be determined. Like I don't know. It could go either way yet. And I don't know, Mary. I would love to tell you. What I do know is I go out there and kind of I get that real sick pit in my stomach. You know, that anxiety feeling that just makes you question everything. And so I have to go somewhere that makes me feel better. And I go into my greenhouse 2 and 3 where all of the mother stock chrysanthemums are, and they're like this tall, and they're all green, and they're all happy. And I literally sit there and I rub the plant leaves because I love the smell of the chrysanthemums. And I sit there and I just like I rub them on my face. I like sit there. I swear, I tell my doctor, if I am not one generation removed from being a plant myself, I don't know who is. I need so much sunlight in my body. It's not funny. Yeah, I really like when I'm feeling bad, I go sit with my plants and I feel better. And I have to literally touch my plants. I like want to pet them. I want to rub on them. I put my fingers down in the soil and check on their little roots. I'm like one of those really bad moms that they would bring. My mom used to tell me this, and she was like, "Oh, when you first have a baby and they bring it to you in the hospital, you're going to get that newborn all swaddled up. And the first thing you're going to want to do is completely undress it and see if it looks naked like it's supposed to and make sure it's perfect." And I'm like, I'm not going to undress my baby. I do that with my plants, though. I like take them all out of the pot and want to look at the roots and make sure they're all perfect. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like some sick, twisted person. I now have to inspect my like plants from the roots up. But no, I do. I like to like I want to smell the soil. I want to look at the roots. I want to like really be in that greenhouse and I feel better. I don't need much time in there to feel better, but I do that and I feel immediately better. And so really trying to spend some time with the moms is what literally helps kind of pull me around and help me feel better and help me kind of come up out of whatever I am doubting at the moment. And it's the smell, it's the feel, it's the texture, it's being around them. It really does help. And it doesn't have to even be a lot. Like I said, sometimes before the mums were really thriving and going, I would go and pull out packs of seeds and I would put a bunch of zinnias in my hands and I would sit there and I would be counting out the zinnia seeds and just really cathartic, counting out zinnia seeds in my hand or running celosia seeds, different seeds across the palm of my hand, feeling out, counting out different seeds across the palm of my hand. But it's always been gardening that has made me feel better and helped me get past whatever it is that gives me that like that doubt or that question that I seem to have from time to time. That's what keeps me grounded. That's what keeps bringing me back. Anyone else?
So I have a question,
Yeah,
but it's not a therapy question. It's a plant question.
ask me.
So I have a black cat pussy willow, and you said you forced them 5 weeks early. Are you weeks you're waiting for them to get fuzzy? And
So before that, like when the catechins, when
mm,
they're still kind of black and glossy,
uh-huh.
yeah, we'll cut them and they will completely open up and poof out and get all fuzzy in the vase for us. So you can cut them when they're just tight sticks.
But it takes 6 weeks to do that?
You can cut them 6 weeks before they would naturally bust out, and they will open up within a week in base.
Oh. Yeah,
Yeah.
I cut some and they didn't open up. So I'm wondering why
How
my
warm did you have them?
oh, that's my dog. I just brought him in the house and put him at like a little display in the house.
And they didn't open up? They should have. How
Mm-mm.
long did you have them in the water in the house?
Oh, they're still in the water. Let me
When did
go
you
over
bring them
here.
in?
Huh?
When did you bring them
I
in?
brought him in a couple weeks ago. I had a well, I guess they are opening up. Let's see if I can get around. Can you see them?
Yeah, I can see them. Are they starting to?
Yeah, I guess they are.
They look like they're starting to.
Yeah, I guess they are. And then what do you do with them? Do you sell them to florist or make arrangements or?
Both, and enjoy them too. They're one of my favorites.
Right. That's why I got it. And one of the earliest. What about
Yes.
forsythia? Do you force the forsythia?
Yep, that's another really, really great one. And flowering quince is another really great one that you can do that with too. Now, flowering quince, you can get that in like a really pretty pink or a lime green. The lime green isn't as prevalent. The pink is a little bit more traditional and well known. What I will tell you is when you force the pink, if you get it really tight bud and you force it, the blooms that open, it'll open up further down the stem and then work its way up the stem to open. And the ones closest to the tip as they open will almost open white because of forcing them out with time. It's kind of wild. The plant kind of doesn't like it, so to speak. And the only thing I don't like about the quince is that it has kind of like thorns on the side of it. It's kind of pokey. So you have to be a little bit careful with it, but the blooms are so beautiful that it's absolutely worth bringing in the house. So I always bring that in around Easter.
With the forsythia, do you wait until you see color on the branch or?
It's actually better if you cut it before you even see color. So it's one of those plants that you kind of need to know that it's forsythia well in advance. So I'm one of those girls that drives down the road, and 1 year I'll be like, there's my forsythia, and I kind of know that it's there. And so then I wait the whole year, and then the next year, about the time that I'm like, it's forsythia time, I pull over and I go and cut it off the roadside. I'm the roadside ditch girl because we have a lot of forsythia down here and people think I'm crazy, but you know what? Nobody gets mad at me for helping clear the highways, okay? Because nobody cares about the forsythia like I do. I have some in my yard, but I like love it. And it's just all over the place down here. You can also use forsythia to make amazing wreath forms and things like that. And I've seen people do wreath forms with the forsythia and then allow it to open up. So it's
Well,
almost like a living wreath with blooms. Absolutely gorgeous. So there's
nice.
all kinds of, yeah, you can do baskets with it. It's a really, really good, very malleable type of vine. So you can do a whole lot with forsythia. It's kind of underrated. It's a little bit invasive, reason that I won't plant more of it, but it's a really beautiful vine. Does anybody else have any other questions? I love this.
Well, I do. I have another one. So where are you?
Where am I? I am located in the absolutely magical Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. So we're like right in the middle of Virginia and over in the valley, like
Yeah, I'm thinking about climate wise and those
six
Lysianthus
feet.
that you just got.
Oh, they're gonna
So
be
I
fine.
thought,
We have six high tunnels we and
ah,
and a greenhouse. So they have been well loved, insulated, and protected.
okay, so
We've
you
got
can,
them. Yeah, they've been in the greenhouses and then under loads and loads of blankies and the few high tunnels that they got put into. So nobody's outside and everybody's under lots of protection for right now. We were
right.
watching the temps at night and getting very worried about them, but they came in and they looked so pretty. And so I did scare my crew just a little bit because typically we always grow a very large crop of Lysianthus. However, this year I accidentally doubled the order. And so they were expecting somewhere around 4,000 Lysianthus, and when like the 7,500 showed up, they were or 7,600 showed up, they were just a little bewildered about where they were all going to go, but we've managed to make a good plan about where that we were going to let them all live. And one of my favorite things about the Lysianthus is that most people don't realize it's a Texas native. And I love to tell people, like, when you go to Texas, I am sure that they do not look this beautiful in the ditches, but it's really cool to think that we have such amazing wildflowers in the US like a lisianthus, and it can be a beautiful alternative or substitution to a standard rose any day of the week.
Mm-hmm.
And our lisianthus, because we grow them in a high tunnel, we don't grow them outside, because one of the biggest things that a lisianthus is sensitive to is actually wind. And so we net them because they have such poor root structure, and they actually will grow very few roots beyond what they come to us with. So we give them netted support, and we put them in a high tunnel so there's no wind to bother them. Now we are going to plant some outside this year just because I bought so darn many, but we're going to wait a while to do that. But we plant them all in the high tunnel just to protect them from the environmental impacts. And come July, we can get hip high lisianthus without any problems. And they're absolutely gorgeous. We've had upwards of like 10 blooms on a single stem, which is pretty amazing.
So now I have a question. I have a small greenhouse and I have all these little plants out there, and every day I'm murdering um, aphids and fungi.
Yes.
And I don't have any kind of high or low tunnel in the yard. And I'm like afraid to get it. It's like if I get a low tunnel, it'll just fill up with aphids and I won't like it.
So bug pressure is a real issue when you start looking at having houses or working with the environment where you're making a modified environment, because you're making
Mhm.
something warmer and nicer than what's outside. So all of the insects, all of any of your pests and things want and are naturally attracted to
Oh,
that.
they're very happy.
Yes. So you have to have an extra strong either chemical or biological organic control program in place. We use a biological control program. So we use organic products and biological products, which are plant derivatives that are used to attack pests using biologicals to attack it. Um, on our crops. And so a lot of our spray products come from BioWorks. And Monterey Chemicals is the retail line of most of the things that we get from BioWorks. And so a lot of those are either they're right on the edge or they are OMRI listed and approved. And so we are not organically certified. I just don't pay for the certification is what it is. I just don't pay for the certification. But I believe in having a really understanding how to have a full toolbox of tools and knowing how to use the right tool at the right moment. And so I am a steward of the environment. And I believe that my kids and my great grandkids are going to be the ones running around on that land. And I refuse to do anything to ruin it and screw it up for them. And so we take what we do to control issues very, very seriously. We also are really big about scouting and preventative maintenance. So, one of the best things you can do is to keep your environment as clean as possible. And that is like keeping it as weed free as humanly possible. And I know that that sounds really not fun, but it is really important. And in fact, it was one of the hardest lessons I had to learn, especially because I grew large kind of quickly, and I had to put the manpower in place to kind of run that faster than I probably wanted to, because I quickly learned that when we had a big footprint, it required a whole lot to keep it as clean as we needed to in order to produce quality product. So we try to have no weeds in those greenhouses. Weeds just harbor insect and diseases. We try not to have any space that's not in a either in production or in a very tight knit, very controlled area. We don't have loose fabric laying around. We try to just have a really, really tight run program. Everything's picked up. There's no places for things to create habitats. The other thing that you will find, especially in the winter months, is pest pressure becomes really big with crawling critters. Um, Moles, mice, those things will easily tunnel in and can ruin a crop of ranunculus or anemone really fast. Your bulb crops that set right at soil surface can quickly be eaten. And so you have to be really careful about those. Our best combat tools by far for voles are the solar sonic spikes that you can get off of Amazon. They're really, really. I don't enjoy hearing the little beep, beep, beep when I go in the tunnels, but I know they're doing their job. And they work really well for us. They may not work for everybody, but they work really well for us. And then also this may not be for everyone, and I have said this before, but we use bait stations for the mice and the rats. And the bait stations that we use are not poisonous because I have dogs and children. We use a 50% cornmeal, 50% baking soda because the mice and the rats cannot digest the baking soda. They will be attracted to the cornmeal, they will eat it, but they cannot process and digest. Therefore, their little insides kind of explode. They just kind of take a long dirt nap somewhere not in my tunnel. They run off and take a nice long nap somewhere else, and we don't find any evidence of them. And they don't seem to be harmful to any of the other prey that might eat them. So, as far as I'm concerned, that seems to be the most safe, humane way of taking care of kind of our pest issues that we run up against in our greenhouses and our tunnels. And those are real issues because let me tell you, very quickly can a pest get out of control in a winter house and wreak havoc. We have had them within the matter of a week take out an entire tunnel crop. And that is not fun when you are in the winter already not feeling great about everything else. Excuse me. And then you've lost all that income. And so being able to find quick and easy solutions to stay on top of them, these are the easiest ways that we have been able. I have been all over the place with different ways of controlling things, and this has been our safest and most successful approach. So, did you have any other questions? Those were great questions.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah. No, that's and I have a chicken house, and this is the first year I've seen little mice scurrying around, and I hadn't quite figured out what to do, but I'll sure try soda and
Yes,
meal.
yes, the mice are a problem in our chickens too. That's what my husband does.
I have a question, actually.
Yes.
So, I have two high tunnels, and this is my first year that I fully like had them for an entire year. And I'm sorry if you hear my dogs; they're probably
Oh,
about to
you're
go nuts.
fine. I
Um,
have one jumping up on the table over here.
so okay, I am in North Carolina, Salisbury, North Carolina, so Zone 7B, but actually they just changed us to AA, I guess. Um, so I have a Lysianthus crop that I grew in my high tunnel last year. That was like what you were saying, like up to my waist, big, beautiful blooms. But I was like, I wonder if I just left it over the winter and just left the tunnel open because they're really hardy. Have you done that where you've overwintered them?
So I have, and here's what I'm going to tell you. You're going to find that you probably will experience about 50% loss when you overwinter. You have to decide if you feel like that is still worth the space in your house. You will get some that will come back, but you're going to lose about half of them. They won't come back consistently, the full flush.
Okay.
And so when I pull them out, we pull ours out every year just because I can't afford to give up that much space for half of the crop. And I still will have a couple that will miss and they'll come back and the crew will ask, why didn't we leave them? That one made it. And I have
Yeah.
to through this all over again, and they want to fight me on it every year. But we left them the very first year, and it was the hard way to learn that lesson. They just will not consistently make it. Now, one thing
Okay.
I will tell you that we are doing on our Lizzies this year that I'm kind of excited about. Now, I don't know how long you've been growing Lysianthus. We've been growing them for a while now,
Mhm.
and they are still one of the more challenging flowers that we grow simply because they seem to be really susceptible to every Tom, Dick, and Harry soil-borne disease and
Yes.
pathogen out there, my lands. And so when we go to plant them, we always use root shield, which is like a little inoculant. Think about, we're going to give them all, every little plant gets its own bodyguards. We give them a little
Mhm.
bath of bodyguards, put them in a little bath, and then we plant them. So every plant gets planted with its own bodyguards. Do
Is that
that.
like Actinovate?
Yes, it sure is.
Okay. Okay.
But we use root shield, and we use the wettable powder that also has mycorrhiza. It has like 3 different types mixed into it. So it's a like a beefed up version of the Actinovate. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, like they're all gonna sell you on being the best used car salesman. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, here's what I also did this year, because I saw that this was done in some of the European and Asian cultures that were really getting into growing Lysianthus and running into some of the same issues. When we grow them, we grow them really tight, really close
Mhm.
together, because they don't need a whole lot of space. Those roots really aren't going to grow anymore. You're not going to get a whole lot of branching on the plant. They just kind of grow straight up. See, I got a dog right here. Terrible. But what we did do was between every variety, because I like to grow a whole lot of varieties. That's the other thing I did when I placed that huge order, is I must have ordered a tray of every single variety I could. I didn't order 4 trays of a color. I just ordered one of every single color. Uh, so it just looks like a rainbow in the greenhouse. So between every variety, so there's not a whole lot of a space taken up by a variety. Between every variety, we put about a foot of a buffer between our varieties. Okay.
Oh.
I
Oh.
gave up, I sacrificed a foot between each variety. Okay. Now, the reason that I did that was in the throes of these things growing, when inevitably something does show up, some soil-borne something that shows up and starts running through that bed, and I notice, oh, this plant's going down. Now that one, we will have to pull that plant out. We'll have
Mhm.
to start pulling plants so that it doesn't spread. My thought and my goal is to emulate what they're doing over in Europe, and I'll be able to quarantine it to a variety if I've given enough
Mhm.
space that it can't run through the whole bed. So that's what we did. And I was actually shocked. I thought I was going to end up losing a lot more of my space in my bed doing that than I ended up actually losing. Um, the mathed in my favor, apparently. But we ended up just forfeiting almost a foot between every variety, just to make sure that we could give enough space that if we have something that runs through that crop, we can buffer and prevent it from moving on to the next variety. That's our thought.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we'll keep watching, stay tuned,
Yeah.
and if it works out, I'll share.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea actually. So, and then the other question I had is I just got approved and I have my funding for an NRCS high tunnel.
Oh,
Um
congratulations.
Thank you. I'm really excited and the funding was a lot more than I expected. So,
Good.
I just wanted to see if I've used a company called Farmer's Friend for my high tunnels before.
Okay.
I have two. There's like 16 feet wide and they're only about 75 feet long. So now
Hmm.
like I don't I truthfully don't know like what the best size is to get. or if there's like a company you recommend looking at. And two, another thing, like I'm in the South, and I used to growing in tunnels in a flower farm for about 5 years now. The whole tunnel to me, I've been profitable tunnel right all over the tunnel. And the end of the advice you get as far as like tunnels be
Oh, Jessica, you're breaking up a little bit there. Can I ask you to repeat a little bit?
oh goodness, yeah. Can you hear me now?
I can
Yeah.
hear you just fine now.
Okay. So I got funding for a high tunnel through NRCS,
Yep.
and I have two small high tunnels. I'm just wondering, like, if there's a company you can recommend looking at to purchase this high tunnel through, and then what crop would you say is the most profitable in a high tunnel?
Okay, so here's what I'm going to say on you came to the right place. So if you didn't know, before I was a flower farmer, when I like jumped out of horticulture school, I landed a job in horticulture distribution as this really young girl who knew nothing, quoting greenhouses and helping people get started with
Ah,
their garden centers. I should not have been doing that at that young of an age, but why not? It was really fun, and I learned so much. The first thing I'm going to say is I wouldn't look for a national brand. What I would look for is close to you company. And the reason I say that is you're going to want to look at your steel gauge, and 16 gauge, 17 gauge steel is what I'd be looking at. Look at your snow and wind load for your greenhouse. And as long as you can get a snow and wind load that you feel pretty good about, and you can even pull ratings off of national greenhouse websites and
mhm.
ask a local company. The reason I say local is because steel costs a lot to ship, and you don't want to
Okay.
spend all your money in freight. Okay. And
Okay.
there's not a whole lot of difference when you start talking local companies and national companies. Okay. So I would
Okay.
also, um, so look local for sure. I always suggest people look at 4 foot bow spacings, not 5 foot. Don't try to stretch your dollars and look at 5 foot bow spacings. Always go 4 foot.
Okay.
I like to overbuild my structures because I'm terrified of snow. So I always look at crossbows on every bow, cross
Mhm.
trusses on every bow. You can go every other if you're braver than me, but you definitely need cross trusses, at least every other, if not every bow, like I do. And then what was your last question on that? Oh, the most
I
profitable crop.
yeah, crop.
Okay, so you're going to want to look at your shoulder seasons. Your most profitable crops are going to be coming from things in the spring and in the fall months that you can produce. So,
Mhm.
really, for me, it's going to actually be our spring ranunculus and our fall chrysanthemums. Those are the two most profitable crops I can produce in a high tunnel. Now,
Okay.
maybe for you, it would be like fall dahlias. Whatever you can produce in the shoulder seasons in your high tunnel is going to be your most profitable crop.
Okay. Yeah, so last year I grew all the heirloom mums I got from you guys, and so I took it here and I like a 100 plant and
You're going away again.
I know you're breaking up, Jess.
me now
Barely.
uh,
I'm trying.
it's okay. I might stop off probably our
I'm so sorry. Oh, she had good stuff to say too.
Hmm.
I know, that was terrible.
And why does it come and go? She needs to
I
go back.
don't know. Listen, the internet is not always my friend over here. Sometimes it just comes and goes with the wind. Rural
Yeah.
internet, you know what I do about that? I write my congressman. I really do. That's what I do is I write my congressman. It hasn't gotten me
Well,
very far.
I Wondering about her grant with all the grant stuff drying up.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
There you are. You're back.
Yeah, so I was going to say I grew the mums in the tunnel last year. I
Yes.
planted them all in the ground, and I was the only person in our area that has heirloom mums, and people were losing their minds over them. So
I
I
know.
was that's kind of the goal. Okay,
I'm telling you, they're really juicy. They're really good. We're trying to get them out and in more hands for that very reason.
great. So I guess I'll just thank you.
Oh, well, does anybody else have any other questions tonight?
We've all talked a whole hour.
I
Wow.
know. I have had just so much fun chatting with all of you guys. It has really been my pleasure to sit here and have another amazing round of flower therapy with my favorite people in the entire world. I really enjoy getting to know each of you, and it has been just a really great opportunity to really let my hair down and talk with you guys about the things that matter most to me. I hope you guys can join us next month when we do this again. That was the dog. That was the dog trying to jump on top of the table. It's been a really wild show behind scenes, too. I thank you guys all so much for joining us. And we will be doing this again next month on the 21st at the exact same time. So I hope you will join us then. And until then, everybody have a wonderful evening. Thank
Great.
you.
Bye.
Bye. Listen.